This farce just gets worse. King Charles has to draw a line under it, or I'm warning him that he is going to be humiliated. New reports that Meghan Markle is planning to get around these so-called new Megxit rules, which has now been described as Megxin, is not going to catch on, by presenting the monarch with some of her shitty jam to try and get publicity. Honestly, this is a farce. I am totally sick of it. I guess the only thing that can bring us some joy today is that Prince William, with a little help from his friends Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, has just totally torpedoed these two and their drive to convince us that they're about to be attacked by terrorists with the release on Taylor and Travis Kelce's wedding day of a bombshell new podcast featuring the future king. Here's just a little taster. London's calling.
Our guest today is the 6'3" prince from London, England. That's right, the president of the English Football Association, the vice royal patron of the Welsh Rugby Union, the Duke of Cambridge, the Duke of Cornwall, the Lord of the Isles, Prince of Great Stewart of Scotland, Earl of Chester, and the Prince of Wales. Ladies and presenters, please welcome His Royal Highness Prince William!
That is quite an intro, guys. Amazing.
We had to do it big for you. Had to do it big.
Now that's what it means to be a real star, okay? Meanwhile, Meghan's like, God, what am I going to do? I'm going to sneak some was never into my bag and give it to the king, and I'm going to launch this new lavender honey. I mean, it's gross, isn't it? But anyway, here's the reporting from Rob Shooter, who's describing this as a peace offering. Oh, please. It's nothing more than commercial exploitation of the royal family, and it should not happen. So he quotes a source as saying, Meghan knows the king loves gardening, organic produce, and homemade food. She believes the jams are thoughtful because that's something she's created herself. She hasn't. Oh my God, stop this. She wants the gift to feel personal, not extravagant. The timing, however, has raised eyebrows. As speculation grows over Meghan's first UK visit in years, she has simultaneously ramped up promotion of As Ever, posting carefully curated social media videos showcasing buckets of fruit, tea, and her latest products. That's the dilemma with Meghan, says a royal insider. Is it a heartfelt peace offering or brilliant brand marketing? With her, those two things often happen at the same time. Those close to the Duchess insists there's no hidden agenda. She's not expecting the king to post about the jam on Instagram. She is crazy. She simply wants to arrive with something warm and homemade instead of an expensive royal-style gift. Oh, piss off. Piss off with your gross lavender honey that no one's buying. But in all seriousness, this farce has to end. I just repeat that point because what is happening is that the king and the British royal family are about to be embarrassed in the same way that the propagandists for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle just have been. Now, in fairness, Richard Eden is one of the few people within the British mainstream media who didn't fall for their lies, and he's now blowing the whistle on this secret WhatsApp group chat, which is why so many of the royal correspondents, who present podcasts like this and want you to trust them have been made to look like absolute fools this week. Richard Eden writing, we journalists treasure our sources, and nowhere in my chosen trade is that more the case than in the ultra-competitive world of royal reporting, where inside information is extremely hard to come by. So it's understandable that some of my peers were thrilled to be included in a WhatsApp group created by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Director of Communications, Liam Maguire. As members of the select group, they would be the first to learn the latest news from the California-based couple. Journalists who are members are not hard to identify because they all post the same updates, often using an identical form of words on social media as soon as these tablets of stone are handed down from Montecito. It's not journalism as such, but it does mean they have information that others such as myself do not possess. I cannot pretend to have refused to join the WhatsApp group on ethical or indeed other grounds because Mr. Maguire never invited me to join. Having been a social diarist for most of my career, I am used to being treated with caution, after all, ruffling feathers, not stroking them, as part of my job description. This week, however, I am profoundly relieved not to be a member of the Sussex's WhatsApp group because those who are have been made to look like prize chumps through no fault of their own, I might add. I disagree with Richard Eden on that. It is through a fault of their own. How many times do reporters have to realise Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are lying to you? All they have done for the past decade is lie to you. So do not trust them. So I disagree with Richard Eden. This is absolutely their fault. There's a reason why I never trust any of these briefings and why we always look under the surface to realise what's really going on with Harry and Meghan, because they lie like Pinocchio. Last Friday, Eden writes, they all received a long message confirming details of Prince Harry and Meghan's return visit to Britain. It wasn't just the type of short message they sometimes receive, but a long operational note detailing exactly what the couple would be doing after they landed in the country. News of the visit was duly reported on news websites within minutes and in newspapers the next day. The BBC's Daniela Ralph, for example, reported on the corporation's website that I pay for. We as British taxpayers pay for this nonsense reporting. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have accepted an offer to stay in a royal residence with their 2 children when they visit the UK next month. Harry and Meghan, as well as their son Archie and daughter Lily, will be guests of the King on a royal estate for their first trip as a family to Britain in 4 years. However, reporters' gratitude at confirmation of such a scoop turned to alarm the next day when the Sun newspaper reported that Harry's demand for automatic taxpayer-funded police protection had been rejected by the Home Office committee, which decides such matters. This soon led to another ping on the phones of the WhatsApp group members. This time, it was a message informing them that everything they had been told the previous day and duly reported on their employee's website was, in fact, wrong. Harry was now reconsidering plans to bring his wife and children to the UK after his request for police protection was rejected, as the BBC's Daniela Ralph put it. Spare a thought for the BBC's poor website viewers. Less than 24 hours after they had been informed with all the authority that the corporation could muster that something was going to happen, they were now being told that it might not happen at all. Now, one of the people in that WhatsApp group, and he's very open about this, is Tom Sykes of The Royalist. But as a result of this false briefing, he has now well and truly turned. And he is actually disgusted now about the fact that this couple are invoking a terrorist attack in a British city to try and get their own way.
Harry and Meghan, they don't bring strength, they don't bring dignity, they don't bring stability, they bring chaos, they bring drama, they bring this cynicism, this willingness to just throw everybody under the bus, to just say that it's, I mean, honestly, to invoke the threat of a terrorist attack in a British city after what happened at Manchester, I just think it's absolutely disgraceful. And I think it's really damaging to the charities.
It absolutely is. Lauren, the Insider, is a royal YouTube sensation. She certainly isn't in the WhatsApp group. And the problem is, Lauren, what we have seen this week are a lot of so-called journalists simply be exposed as propagandists. And I disagree with Richard Eden when he says, oh, well, it's not their fault. I mean, how many times do you accept, Lauren, that you are going to be lied to before you reject the lies? And if you're still not rejecting the lies, I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be taken seriously by anyone. Certainly not by the public. If you value the whole truth and nothing but the truth on these royal stories, make sure you subscribe to Outspoken right now. It allows me to work outside of the MSM and the Royal Rota.
I agree. Look, I don't know why as well. I don't want to be seen as slamming anyone, but I am not here to not give proper commentary. Tom Sykes went to Geneva to cover Meghan Markle's talk there as well. Nothing that comes out of this woman's mouth can be trusted. None of these journalists are focusing on what the public deserve. And the public deserve the fact that this is a woman where bullying allegations have followed her around relentlessly. Harry and Meghan are hypocrites. This is why independent shows like yours, Dan, are so important, because by and large, I would say 99% of journalists are compromised if they are being given lines, schedules, information by the likes of Liam Maguire and the Team Sussex, so basically Meghan then, then they're obviously going to have to toe the line to some degree. They're not asking the proper questions that need to be asked. How about some of these journalists ask, why was Meghan named by Virginia Giuffre's lawyer about potentially being a witness? Why does Meghan have
That's
bullying
just been
allegations?
buried.
Yeah, it's all been buried. It's buried all the time. And this is the problem I have when it comes to royal commentators. You know, be honest with your audience. If you have a long-standing working relationship, and I'm not naming any of them, but if any of these commentators have a long-standing working relationship with the Sussex team, they have to be honest with the public, because I do not think this is a woman that should be given a second chance whatsoever. And now people have got, you know, egg on their face. Nothing that comes from Team Sussex should be trusted, in my opinion. But equally, I would say nothing that comes from the palace can be trusted. We have seen Buckingham Palace leverage their position of power to squash stories frequently. And that is why we see one news agenda in the mainstream media and an entirely different news agenda, where we see people like the Royal Grift and Meghan's Mole and all these amazing independents that are actually holding people like Harry and Meghan to account and continuing to bring up the real story that the establishment journalists won't.
Indeed. And I've got a couple of examples of that, actually, like on this whole lie about Harry and security, which I'm going to come to. Royally Sage posted, Harry wants people to believe his private security knows more than Ravik. He is a dunce. And the Royal Grift made a point that the mainstream media would never be brave enough to report, but I obviously have, Lauren. I feel this loser is so desperate for this IPP status back that a false flag attack is looming. I can see these two harming others around them to prove to the Home Office he is a target. Sounds like Harry is foreshadowing it. And I do think that's fair enough for Tom Sykes for making that point. You know, who on earth now wants to go to Birmingham when Harry has literally advertised it to the world, Lauren, as a terror threat? If there is an attack, and I'm just going to be very clear on this, and some people won't like to hear it, Lauren. If there is an attack on Prince Harry or anyone connected to the Invictus Games now, this is on you, Harry. That would be the only reason why there is an attack, because you want it and you're advertising it and it's twisted. And then Shauna Kay posted, I think Harry would feel a whole lot safer if the Invictus Games Foundation removed him as a patron. It would stop all these high-profile events and he could retire from public life like Uncle Andy. Problem solved. And the Royal Grift responded, I think this is a great idea. Harry, and again, this is something that the mainstream media will not cover, Lauren. Harry has put the veterans' safety now with all of this attention and putting ideas there of potential mass casualty. He has put their safety at threat. Stay home, Harry. Now, again, you will not see that analysis in the mainstream media whatsoever. Lauren, there's another point that I just think it's important that I make too, because people will wonder, well, Dan, you used to work in the mainstream media. How were you able to break all of these stories on the Sussexes? Because I really have broken more royal stories than any of these people within the Royal Rota. And Lauren, I was very lucky, actually, when Harry and Meghan were causing chaos within the British royal family. I had an editor, he's called Tony Gallagher. He's now the editor of the Times newspaper. Not a newspaper I support in a lot of ways, but he's a very brave editor, Lauren. And he said, Dan, you can go where the story goes. As soon as Tony Gallagher was moved off The Sun and replaced by a woman called Victoria Newton, who is a propagandist for certain parts of the royal family, guess what, Lauren? I was no longer able and free to report truthfully, which is one of the main reasons why I ended up leaving the Sun newspaper and going to work for GB News, and at the time the Mail Online, which was run by another brilliant and brave editor called Martin Clark. So very often journalists are constrained based on who their editor is, and you've got to be very careful to have an editor that you know will allow you to report the truth. The great thing is now, Lauren, I have no editor. You have no editor. You know, we simply are not prepared to be gatekept anymore. We simply will report the truth. And I think there is
I'm so glad as well, Dan, you've made that point, because I will often say things that will go against 99% of people out there, and they're running all of these lines. And I'm sure some people look at me and they think you're on another planet. But like you say, we know because we've been in that kind of, I guess it's almost like a secret society. We are
absolutely, and
almost
they
like
protect
those,
each other. And that's why they all say the same stuff, because it's like power in numbers.
And we're like the magicians that are bringing up the veil and explaining to people. And that's why when it comes to this security, this is not what anyone else has said. I am adamant he's got this security. And let me just tell you why. The optics of how this is playing out in the public is absolutely clickbait, it's hysteria, and it's all being done because if Harry comes back and people think he's got his security, and let's say, you know, there's the court case, and if that's won, all of a sudden, people are going to say, hang on, that's two good lots of news for Harry. Ultimately, Harry is tied into the establishment because of Invictus, which is a framework built to give him relevance, in my belief. And so the Labour government giving him £26.6 million, there is so much resting on Invictus. It's being held in Birmingham. And Birmingham is a heavily Islamic area where it is not safe for Jews and Christians to be, okay? They need it to work. They need Invictus to work. Now, you talk about the fact that it's being held in Birmingham. It was between Birmingham and Washington, D.C. I've done my own investigation into this. The fact it was chosen to be Birmingham, it was the board of Invictus that chose this. So it's all very strange. It ties into this establishment plot. Birmingham is not a safe area for it to happen. But maybe Prince Harry should have thought about boasting in Spare when he took millions of pounds and he spoke about Taliban members being chess pieces. Now, whilst no one's saying what he did in the line of duty is wrong, there is a way to go about this. He has brought so much of this on. You know, he has invited this. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we will have Jewish and Christian veterans that will not feel safe to go there. The problem we've got, Dan, is many people will not speak out about this because the royal patronage, royal funding, government funding, it's such a large spider web that people are too scared to speak out about it.
Absolutely. And Lauren, what we're also seeing, unfortunately, is the worst type of what in the business we previously called client journalism. But actually, I don't even use the word journalism. I mean, ITV, woke ITV, as I call it, an organisation run by Tom Bradby. Now, remember, that guy chose Prince Harry over Prince William. Prince William and Catherine refused to speak to him now, even though they gave him the engagement interview. And he has his little minions. The royal editor, who is called Chris Shipp and conducted that very weird interview with Harry in Ukraine recently. Charlene White, who is one of the most hated TV presenters in this country. She's a loose woman, but when she went on I'm a Celebrity, she was the first voted out because the public just hate her. She has been one of these DEI hires, Lauren. You know, she's been promoted because she is non-white. That is just a fact. I'm sorry, some people won't like it, but it's true. She's got no talent. And then their royal producer called Lizzie Robinson, who they're trying to turn into some type of presenter. And all of these people have been sent out this week, not to do journalism, Lauren, but to push Harry and Meghan's sick propaganda about this untrue threat. So I just want to take you through some of it, Lauren, so we can dismantle it. But first, I want to show you the straight news coverage which was anchored across all of ITV's main broadcasts yesterday, anchored by Charlene, with Chris Shipp doing the